Alright, so we have Anderson dos Santos versus Miles Johns. Miles Johns has a 2-inch height advantage, although giving up 2 inches in reach, but he's also the much younger guy. What is that? Nine years, basically? 8.5. So yeah, we'll break down the striking of these two. So Anderson dos Santos loves to come forward, and even if that means exchanging in the pocket so that he stands his ground and then doesn't have to take a backward step. So if you try and push him back, just prepared to exchange with him. But he doesn't have the best striking defense. His head is basically on the center line the whole time. He pretty much refuses to move his head no matter how much he gets hit. And Miles Johns, he does have a bit of power, but he seems a little awkward on the feet to me. I can tell he's a natural striker. He seems quite stiff. Awkward balance when he is throwing his, punches. Frequently overextends on a lot of things. Does have a nice stiff jab. He'll use that stiff jab to set up the overhand right at times, but a lot of the time he's just looking for that stiff jab or the overhand right, so, it doesn't have the biggest bag of tricks. And he will just back up in a straight line, just kind of lowers his base, just covers up near the fence, like purely defensive body language. If you do just kind of bum rush him and start teeing off on him on the fence, he just kind of, covers up, looks for a single leg, but yeah, we'll get into the grappling, and that's where it can get interesting, because Miles Johns, basically every time, he will just dip when you try and pressure him or, explode on him with a combination. And that's how Batista caught him, but also he's just always looking for that single leg. When his heels are against the fence, he's looking to grab that single leg and then run the pipe from there. Just single leg every time he's getting pressured, like clockwork. Anderson dos Santos, he will go for the guillotine when his opponent shoots, and he definitely could sub Miles Johns. And Miles Johns, he does stall on takedowns, so it does give you time to, work your own offense. He will stall on the double leg near the fence. He does have a nice reactive double, good timing on the reactive double. A lot of his takedowns are reactive single, reactive double. And when he does get on top, basically he's just looking for control. Like he's just basically laying prey. Like he doesn't have too much offense, doesn't expend too much energy on top, just looks to really recover and just stay on top of his opponent. Anderson dos Santos, he does have some, offensive wrestling as well. Goes for takedowns from the body lock, but I think Miles Johns has a very solid underhook and pummel game, and I think he's quite good at defending takedowns. How these guys win fights, so for Miles Johns, he has considerable power and good takedown defense, as I just talked about. I do think Anderson dos Santos does have the cardio advantage here, and how Miles Johns loses is that he just throws low volume and he just has very limited striking offense. Like, he has a few strikes that he throws and he generally doesn't throw them too often. And for Anderson dos Santos, it's the fact that he has terrible striking defense. Like, he's absolutely there to be hit, but also poor fight IQ. Standing in fights for way too long when he's obviously just getting pieced up. Like, obviously he's just taking damage and it's not a good look, but he just seems pretty content in that firefight a lot of the time. Path to victory for Anderson dos Santos. Look to push him back to the fence and then keep him there. Try and, just push him against the fence at times, break, land your combinations, be prepared to defend the single leg, and then rinse and repeat. Hold him against the fence, yeah. Just keep the pressure on the whole fight. Do look for the body lock, and look to turn the corner after the body lock. You're probably not going to get him down by, trying to muscle him down with the body lock, so try and turn the corner and then take the back from there. Maybe try and jump backpack from there, potentially. I think Miles, Cole Smith had a bit of success with that in their fight. And for Miles Johns, look to sit down on your punches if you're landing, because if you get the range, he's going to be there to be hit, and you do have power, so try and test that chin out a little bit. But he does have a really good chin, so don't gas yourself out, try to force the finish, and just try and pace yourself. Like, you're going to be landing, just pace yourself, don't blow your wad in round one. And I wouldn't advise to attempt any submissions. I just think he would just get out-scrambled by Anderson dos Santos, and I don't think that would be wise to attempt any submissions, especially the type of submissions that he generally goes for. Alright, so Miles Johns, I find him very, very easy to break down, in my opinion, just to break down his game. Like, basically has a few tendencies that he repeats over and over again. Reaches for the single leg when his opponent pressures, check. Into a stalling double leg when he can't complete the single leg, just to try and catch his breath. you know, check. And then mostly just throwing the jab on the feet. Like, I don't think he's going to make it too far in the UFC unless he expands his game. And obviously he is, you know, decent athlete, so he can absolutely expand his game, but, you know, just very repetitive and very limited with his offense. I don't think he's going to make it too far in the UFC unless he keeps copying matchups like this, because Anderson dos Santos does not move his head, and, you know, he isn't the most skilled or smart fighter. But as a whole, I'm pretty unimpressed with Miles Johns, honestly. You know, he fights like Yoel Romero, but that just isn't the move at bantamweight. Like, you can't be just low volume and relying on your power and just repeating the same few moves. It's just not going to get you far in the UFC. People are going to work around it, and as soon as you get into the rankings, people are just going to, you know, absolutely make you look silly. And also that, like, dirty glove hook to the uppercut combination that he hit on Kevin Natividad, that was very Romero-esque. So yeah, not the biggest fan of him, but you know, it is what it is. I think he could definitely win this fight for sure. Anderson dos Santos does have a really nice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game, but I think he's going to have a hard time trying to get Miles down. I think the move for him is just to grab the body lock, look to turn the corner, and then take the back from there. Miles Johns, he was largely controlled by Cole Smith when he did take his back at any time in the fight. Like, Miles is also quite easily manipulated by a fighter in bottom position with, like, you know, person with decent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or decent bottom game. Like on the Contender Series, Santiago with his butterfly hooks just pretty much did what he wanted with him in on bottom position. So I don't know if Miles Johns is going to be able to do his usual routine of lay and pray here. I think Anderson dos Santos is going to make him work in top position and not just let him recover and be very comfortable in top position. And that could drain the gas tank of Miles Johns, because I wasn't very impressed with the gas tank as well. Both these guys aren't natural strikers and they look very awkward on the feet. Big thing here though is that Anderson dos Santos, he has zero striking defense, and Miles Johns, he does crack. And I don't know who his striking coach is, but you got to fire that dude, man. He is not helping your career at all. You know, Miles cracks, and I wouldn't be surprised at another big KO here in this spot from Johns. And, you know, if Anderson doesn't die early, then I think he can make it ugly and really wear on Johns later in the fight, maybe even finding a late submission as Miles is fatigued and, you know, maybe just trying to sit on top and get some breath. Could definitely see a reverse to, you know, a submission late in the fight. Alright, so if you guys could like and subscribe to the video, that'd be awesome. Thank you. So prediction is Miles Johns by KO in round 1. That's just how I feel it happens most of the time. I think the fight should be closer to a pick'em though, much closer to a pick'em. I think Johns should be the slightest of favourites, maybe like $1.80, maybe even less than that, but I think there's a tiny bit of value on Anderson dos Santos at anything above $2.35 or plus 135. Like, he's up at $2.62 right here, so I think that's worth a poke. You know, he isn't the most skilled or smart fighter, as I said before, but he can make it a dogfight and really wear on Johns, in my opinion, if he doesn't just die early. Like, if he's still alive after round 1, I think maybe potential for a live bet if you do, you know, bet Johns pre-fight. He's looking a little bit shaky. He's expending a lot of energy in round 1. Anderson is making him work a little bit. Then maybe you can, you know, hedge your bet with a live bet on Anderson dos Santos. But I'll probably be looking to live bet dos Santos if he is making it competitive, but also Johns is expending a lot of energy.